Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my studio. Today I want to talk to you about glue. The most common question that Nikki and I get is, what kind of glue do you use? Pretty much every video, if we're gluing something, people say, what kind of glue do you use? What kind of glue do you use? Hey, Lisa, what kind of glue do you use? Where do you get your glue? What kind of glue do you use? All the time, glue, 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 glue. So we want to get stuck with you today. So we're going to get stuck together and we're going to talk about glue. When to use certain glues, why you want to glue something, and when you need to take caution and when you need to just have a good time. So there's three different instances in general where I glue things. When I'm constructing the piece, I might glue my paper pattern to my glass. When I'm building the artwork, I might glue my glass to my glass so that I can move it to the kiln easily without it shifting while I transport it. And then the third time I might glue something is when I want to glue my artwork, create like a sculptural piece and glue it to a stand. And I use three different types of glue for each one of those processes. So I thought I would give you the rundown on that. Now this is what I'm doing and what I'm using and what I'm having success with. If you have a glue that works for you, by all means, keep using it. And I'm not endorsing any of these brands or manufacturers for glue. I'm just suggesting this is what I'm using. I'm having good success with it. And hopefully it helps you if you're having some issues with maybe some residue between your glasses. Maybe your artwork is not sticking to the base well. Maybe your paper is crumbling or whatever. I'm just suggesting to you what I'm using, what I've had success with for a long time. And if you want to try it, go right ahead. If not, keep using what you're using. But this way, we're hoping to inform you about what kind of glue do we use. Okay, so let's say we're going to cut a flower out of this particular glass. And here's my flower pattern. I would cut the paper pattern out with scissors like this. Okay, and then I would take a glue stick. This is an Elmer's brand. This is a Scott's brand. Doesn't matter. I use both. It's usually what I can buy in bulk, either at the Sam's Club or Costco or somewhere like that, or at another store where I can get like a bunch of them at one time. This one's purple. Doesn't matter. This one's white. Doesn't matter. So I take the glue stick and I put a little dab on the back of the paper, and then I stick it to the glass, and then I would lay out a whole bunch of pieces. And then I would cut around this piece of paper. This increases the accuracy of my art. And if I have a whole bunch of similar pieces, I can line them all up. And it seems to make almost an assembly line kind of process for cutting, which makes the process seem a little faster, a little easier, and more manageable and more organized. So after this is cut, I take the piece of glass with the paper on it over to the grinder. Once I'm at the grinder, I use the paper as a guide to grind around the glass, make sure there's no glass extending beyond the edge of that paper. And then at that point, the paper's wet. So I will use that moisture to just push the paper right off the glass. I would put the piece of glass in a bucket of water, wash it to get off all that residue of glue, and then move on to the next step. So this glue right here is only pre-construction paper to glass. And it's not always or never in glass, but most of the time, that's my method here, is glue stick, paper to glass. Now let's move on. Okay, now we've got our glass cut and we've got it ground. So now I want to glue this glass to my base piece here, and I don't want it to shift or move when I transport it to the kiln. So what I do here is I take this Elmer's white glue, and I put a little bit on a piece of scrap glass. And then I take a toothpick or something similar. I put a couple of dots on the back, and then I glue that glass down. And what this does, these three have already been glued. There we go. So this holds the pieces in place while I transport to the kiln. So the reason I use the toothpick is to use the smallest amount of glue possible. The smallest amount will burn off, leaving no residue. Also, using a small amount, it will dry quickly. So if I want to do some other technique to this glass here, I don't have to wait forever for it to dry because I've used a tiny little amount. So that's the advantage there. Now once these are glued, so what I would do is glue this down, and then I would leave it for a little while and allow the glue to dry before I move on to the next step. But let's say I wanted to glue something like these little stringers down. In that case, I sometimes use liquid hairspray. And again, I'm not endorsing this brand. I bought it because it's one of the least expensive, and it's a pretty big size jar. And I take that glue, and the hairspray, and I put it into this little bottle that I get at the hobby store, where it comes out just one little drop at a time. Can you see that? Just one little drop at a time. Boop, one little drop at a time. Boop. And so if you want to glue something like this, you can kind of place it where you want it. I move this out of the way. And then you can just drop a little piece of glue on top, You don't have to worry about moving it. You don't have to worry about positioning it. And it just stays there, and it dries pretty fast. And the little dropper tube bottle works great. All right, I hear your question. Lisa, where'd you get the little dropper bottle, right? Am I right? I know you. I know you're asking that. Hobby Lobby. Again, I don't endorse Hobby Lobby. I love the store, man. I should really leave my purse in the car, my wallet in the car for sure. Love the store. I never find what I want because I'm too wonderful. Too much stuff. So, but that's where I got these. They're kind of hard to find. You may have to ask somebody, but I like them. Number one, because they give you the tiniest amount of glue, and because they have this little cap, and they're just so darn cute. All right, so now let's say people ask me all the time, how do you glue your frit down? How do you keep your frit on your glass and keep it from moving? Well, most of the time, I take my frit. This is a powder version. I take it and I put it through a sifter, and I just kind of sprinkle it. Let's sprinkle some on this white glass here. Okay, you can see the color there. And look, that's really faint. And you wonder, okay, how am I going to keep that from falling off? Well, the truth is, as long as you don't tip your glass, these two are not really glued yet. As long as you don't tip your glass, it's not going to fall off. It's kind of heavy. See how much of an angle I have this at? It's not going anywhere. So you really don't have to worry about that powder frit. Now, if it's a larger grain, it will kind of roll off like little pebbles. But this stuff doesn't tend to go anywhere. But if you're concerned about it going somewhere, what you could do is take the hairspray right in the bottle and just gently spray it. I'm going to spray it this way once to get it primed. There we go. Okay. You just kind of spray it. And not only does it smell nice, but it will keep your frit intact. Now, I want to caution you. Anytime you use glue, you want to use the smallest amount possible. You want to avoid glue if you can. You don't want to add any contaminants to your project. But if gluing in some fashion will improve your finished results and improve the look and the professional quality of your art, then yes, glue, but use the smallest amount possible. Okay, repeat after me. Use the smallest amount possible. And when you think it's a small amount, use less. Okay, use less. And if you're doing something with a border, glue the border. Don't glue everything. Just glue the outside perimeter so it contains everything. You don't have to glue all the pieces. All right, so gluing glass to glass in the assembly stage. I either use Elmer's White, I use hairspray in a little applicator bottle, or I use hairspray sprayed on. Now, if there's other glue adhesives, that you can buy your art glass supplier, by all means, use them. I would caution you on using just any glue, because some glues, when they burn off in the kiln, are actually create a toxic gas. So I've had good results with these two items, these two types of glue. So I would recommend those. But again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a chemist. So this is what I'm using in my studio. It's working for me from my experience. So if you're concerned about those things, research it, of course. Do your own research. You're the artist, be responsible. All right, so we got our project assembled, we move it into kiln, we fire it. Now we want to take two fused pieces and glue them together. What kind of glue do we use? Well, we come over here. My usual go-to is E6000. Again, I'm not endorsing E6000, but it works for me. I can get it readily a lot of different places. I can open the tube, use a tiny amount, and the tube still stays, in good condition for a long time. So I would put a little bead along the bottom of this glass here, and then put it on top of my base, and then let it dry overnight. Now, when I'm gluing larger things, or things that are more complicated, or things that have more surface area, and maybe this is not the best choice, then I would go with clear silicone caulk. And I like this brand because it's inexpensive and it works well, but it can take a really long time to use up this amount of glue, and it kind of can get dry and not last too long, especially kept out here in my warm studio. But if I'm making a sculptural piece where I have to glue, like we did this piece where we did these big circles, we had to glue like 5 or 6 of them. Well, it wasn't practical to use this. We used this. When I made my lanterns, they seem to be easier to glue with this used in a caulk gun. So we take this caulk gun here, and we put the caulk in there, and then you'd have to, re-nip the tip here and put something long and pointy in there to break the seal because it's probably dried up now. And then I would use this to apply the glue on that glass. So I choose which glue I use depending upon what I want the outcome to be, what I want the project to look like, what my end goal is, and what stage I'm at. Am I paper pattern stage? Am I assembling the glass, or am I assembling the sculpture? So I answer you, Lisa, what glue do you use? Whatever works. So if you have something that works, keep using it. If not, and you're trying looking for something new, this is what I'm using and I'm having success with. So thanks for joining me. Hope you didn't mind this being more of a lesson than a glass thing. But I feel like a lot of times you guys are really, really responding to some of these topics that are not so common and enjoying them. And a lot of the topics are really basic, working studio things that we do, and I take for granted because I've been doing it so long. And you guys are really responding very positively to these different topics, and I really want to thank you for that. We love being here, love doing this for you, and sharing our ideas and our methods here in the studio. So if you enjoyed it, I hope you did. Please share, like, follow, and consider joining my premium video membership. Would love to have you. New videos, 2 new videos a month now. We did it once, we're doing it again. We're doing it over and over. We got so many fun projects coming for you. So hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed hanging out with you today. Until next time, happy fusing.